Hey y'all, welcome back to DiamondTrail Ranch. Today's video is going to be a calm, detailed walkthrough of how we maintain our tomato plants, what we do to set them up for success, and how we keep them supported as they grow. We're going to talk through tomato cages, bamboo stakes, pruning, the airflow, spacing, and why we choose the materials that we do. This is a longer video here, and we do that intentionally. It's about 55 minutes. This is real-time homesteading. That's why we do that. You'll see everything as it happens. I don't really edit much of anything in these videos because I like to show you as real as it is, the real deal. A lot of people like to start off with their videos of what looks like cookie cutter, America, the American dream or whatever, and then they don't want to show the dirty side. So this is how things are out here in Florida Zone 10A gardening. There's no time lapse, there's no rush, just us, the tomato plants, the tools in our hands, and hopefully an absolute ton amount of helpful information you guys can apply to your own gardens. So settle in, grab a cup of coffee, or work alongside us. One of our chickens, one of our roosters is out there, while I walk you through everything we do to give our tomatoes the absolute best chance at a healthy, productive season. Now, we did wait too long, I'll be the first to admit. We started these with bamboo sticks. I didn't have the cages at the time, and you work with what you have. So I just improvised with some twine and bamboo sticks, and now I'm uprooting them. Not uprooting, but I've been pulling the bamboo sticks out and redoing these. So this first one is messy, I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, straightforward honesty, but it does get cleaned up here. I'm gonna be walking you guys through how to support these. You can be rough with these. You don't need to be super gentle. They're resilient. Gardening is a very resilient thing. It's great. So you want to, whenever I head out into the garden like this, the first thing you want to do, take a slow walk around and observe. You want to look at the plants like this one, from top to bottom. What are they telling you today? Are the leaves curling? Are there signs of bug damage? Yes, there is out here. Is the soil still moist from the last watering? Or is it already drying out in this Florida sun? That's important. You make sure you go down and you touch the soil around the roots, around your plants, especially this time of year. In the middle of the year, I actually just saw someone yesterday asking if this was in one of my gardening groups, asking if this was a good time to go ahead and pull tomatoes. And I was thinking, excuse me, ours are still flowering, and some of them have yet to bring anything. We're starting to pull some tomatoes that are blushing. We got lots of green ones coming in as well. So it's just kind of, you want to assess the entire thing. Even before we grab a tomato cage, or drive a stake in the ground, I try to assess how each plant is doing. I learned with this one here that it's just not going to work to stick these guys. They're already too far along as far as using the tomato cages in a traditional way. Folks, it's okay. So I turned it upside down, as you can see. And people will, there's going to be critics out there that's not how you're supposed to use those. I understand that. But these guys are so far along, and they're going to get a good watering that they will be night and day. I know they're very hot and thirsty and wilted right now. That's why these guys are getting some much needed TLC. Just wait, I promise. Stick around and you'll see. If you follow this channel, these guys are going to come to life with thriving fruit. I promise. It's awesome. They're not far. These guys are not too far gone. I'm creating a support system for them because they obviously needed it, right? I mean, that's why we're here. So some grow faster, some sprawl wider, some try to tip over before they even fruit, especially if you don't have a support system like this. These guys were starting to try to grow like watermelons on the ground. Some grow, how they're going to grow, how they're going to grow. They're going to grow how they can support themselves. So you try not to want to get these guys on the ground, because number one, that's not how they're supposed to grow. But number two, they, you know, your fruit, anything, your leaves. Why do you prune? You prune to keep the disease off the leaves. That's one of the reasons, is to keep the disease off the leaves that are touching the ground, aside from sapping energy and things like that. That's a whole nother. I have a video on that as well if you guys want to check it out. I'll probably stick it in the top right corner, on why you prune. I did a whole video on that by itself. Observation is the first form of maintenance. It tells you what's working and what needs your attention. Literally, just walk out and just look. Walk around and just do your preventative maintenance checks and services. Walk around and look. Do your quality control. They have something for everything out there. Sometimes all it needs is water. Tomatoes are heavy feeders, and they're heavy growers. Tomatoes are just heavy. Honestly. Once they take off, they really take off. You can see here with this one, you know. If you don't support them early on, they'll sprawl, they can snap, they can become a tangled mess on the ground. That's when you do risk your rot, your mold, your pests. That's what I'm trying to show you guys here. So today with this video, we're getting ahead of it by installing support systems while the plants are still not quite fruiting, although there is one here. I'm holding one to one, you can see it. There is some of them are like just starting to kind of fruit a little bit. These are really cool varieties. These are Dad Sunset tomatoes and black cherry tomatoes from rareseeds.com. There's no endorsement or anything. There's no affiliation. I'm just letting you guys know where I got these specific seeds. And that's a big deal as you watch this video, because there's probably 60 tomato plants right over here. And guys, I got every single one of them from that website. So they're Baker Creek Heirlooms is the name of the company. They're awesome. Again, there's no affiliation. I'm just letting you guys know. Literally, there's no I don't get anything for saying that. You can just see the video with all the tomatoes that took off. That company speaks for themselves. So, and you guys know about saving your seeds, I'm sure, so you'll never have to buy those varieties again, because you've now got a culture of tomato, you know, that is with your soil, with your climate. It has grown with your environment. So save your seeds. It's a little tidbit I want to throw in there for you. It's a good deal. You know, this is later. If it's an early enough stage, you know, the stems are still pliable, the roots are still shallow. Training them to grow upward is not easy, only easier. It's essential. And that's pruning right there. You can either rake them down, you can kind of do like a twist. You just want to be careful a little bit, because you can cause them to tear on the sides, and then when you do stuff like that, you start risking infection and things like that, disease, blight. So we use a combination of tomato cages and bamboo stakes, and we're going to explain that here as we go. I had to turn these tomato cages upside down. Those are the supports you're seeing. So it's, hey man, use what you can. We're real here. So who cares? It works. It's gonna work. We also use clips, these little green clips. So especially if you're doing this too far along, if you're getting into gardening and your tomatoes are already like, help, like we need something to stand up like this, it's okay. It happens, man. Everybody starts somewhere. So you'll stand them, you know, people can point and laugh, whatever. You do you. You're growing your food. It's not their food. So you pull it up. You use the clips after you stand them up. You put your arm through here, just like that. And you can use the stakes in the middle to help support them too. So there are a lot of tomato cages in general out there. Not all of them are good. The ones you find at the big box stores, like these, typically they can be flimsy. They're cone shaped typically. They don't do too well for these indeterminate tomatoes. What does the indeterminate tomatoes mean? That's a big terminology for this. Those are the kinds of tomatoes that grow tall and wild. They're usually fine for smaller varieties out here. What we're going to do, though, like I said, is we're going to be using these bamboo stakes with these and clipping them. So, and it will keep going up. Well, you know, we will grow with these tomatoes. That's what's going on here, and you guys get to see that. So you can use heavier duty or wire cage. I'm sorry, heavier duty or heavy. You can use heavier duty wire cages. You can use cattle panel if you really wanted to. I wouldn't use field fencing, obviously. If you got the fence nearby, like we do over here, though, you can use some clips, clamp it to anything that keeps it up, growing upward. Really, you want it to be. You want it wide enough to let the plant breathe, narrow enough to guide the plant upward. You want something tall. Try to get it at least 4 feet, or 5 or 6, where the bamboo stakes can come in for us. Make sure the base legs are long enough to drive deep into the soil, especially if you're going to get windy days. Luckily, I'm doing like a combo system here again with the cages and the stakes, and these stakes have already gone through cold fronts and spring weather here in Florida, so I'll be the first to, unless we get an actual hurricane. This setup works. This setup is fine. It's not going to get knocked over. And you're going to check on these guys hopefully twice a day, because it's your garden and you want to take care of it. You know, it's providing you food. You want to take care of your food, and you want to take care of the hand that feeds. I mean, that's what this is. So don't just, gardening is it's not set and forget. There's a lot of people out there that say certain plants are set and forget. I mean, maybe if no, I was gonna say maybe if it's on a pot on your front porch, but that's not even true. We have tons of pots, and I'm still maintaining those too. But you'll see as we start placing over each plant. Though you want to center, like I was saying. Those are all the ones that still need love. Center the cage gently, press down with an even press. You want to twist as you go to work on the spiky ends, the 3 you see in the soil, without compacting it too much. It's going to make a huge difference. You really have to love what you do with the gardening. This stuff is it's amazing. It's so rewarding. You can't get enough of it, seriously. You're doing it for you, you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for whatever trying times there might be. So tomatoes, like I mentioned earlier, they're classified in general as 2 main types, determinate and indeterminate, right? So these are going to be the indeterminate type because they're growing upward. Determinate tomatoes grow to a fixed height, produce all their fruit at once, and then stop growing. They are more compact and can sometimes handle support from just a small cage or a stake. Indeterminate tomatoes, they keep growing. You can almost kind of think of them as, you've heard the terms annuals and perennials. It's not quite like that, but this is another gardening term that's in that ballpark. Indeterminate, they keep growing, flowering, and fruiting until something stops them, like frost, pests, or you prune them too far back. These plants can get over 6 feet tall and sprawl and spread in every single direction. I don't see a problem with that personally. If you're doing this for food, that is not a bad thing. Most heirloom varieties and large fruits, the larger ones, we do have indeterminates here as well. I'm sorry, that's what these are. I meant to say determinants. Most heirloom varieties and larger fruit are indeterminate. That's what we have. That's what we're growing. They need serious support, early and consistent. So tomato stems are not like trees. They don't harden off. They're very soft, hollow, and they're prone to snapping, like I mentioned. Once the fruit starts to set, the weight becomes too much. Without support, you'll get the stems that collapse, fruit that rots, soil, lower airflow, and that can cause It can lead to, can't cause it, but it can lead to fungal disease. So is the main stem, you want to ask yourself, is the main stem growing straight? Are there any yellowing or spotted leaves? Are any leaves already touching the ground? Is the plant bushy with suckers or leggy and tall? This tells you whether to prune first, cage first, or tie it to a bamboo pole for immediate help. You can prune as you go as well. Don't get a little too hasty and accidentally rip the plant in half. But you can. It's okay. It'll be fine. You also feel the soil if it's compacted. We don't run into that issue here. You'll loosen around the base with your fingers. If it's dry. You want to make a mental note to water it after you're done staking, which I did do. So when these are all staked up, they're going to get a healthy drinking of water. Healthy tomato plants start from the roots up. And a plant that is stressed early on, it's going to give you problems all season. So, that's why you want to have the good cages, the good bamboo sticks, or even good yardsticks. Doesn't have to be the bamboo. You can, depending on the sticks you're using, it's fine. If you are using the thinner cages like these, you can reinforce them with the bamboo T-posts, zip ties, tied to the side of them. You don't want to underestimate the Florida weather, though. Between the heat and the wind, your plants will thank you for every bit of stability. The bamboo, you can cut your own bamboo if you have it. It's probably not likely. I'm actually looking for some bamboo personally, the clumping kind. You want pieces that are, but that's not for this. You want pieces that are dry, straight, at least 4 feet tall. You can really use most sticks. Just make sure the stick itself isn't diseased or whatever. Hopefully dried out, which would be nice. You can use a handsaw to clean up the ends and sand down any splinters if cosmetics is your thing. Bamboo is strong. Obviously, it's sustainable. If you gotta grow, it's free. I envy you if you have a bamboo garden. We don't have one of those yet. Even a 1-inch thick bamboo pole can support a heavily fruited tomato branch. The key is to push it, at an angle toward the center of the plant, but away from the roots. You can drive it down about 8 to 10 inches into the soil. Bamboo will last you a couple seasons if you store it dry. So, and you can reuse these sticks too. See the clip I got there? We use those too to help tie it or get it clipped up to the bamboo stakes. So, what else? I also had those ties. Not the ties. There's a string that I was using. You can tie the plant to the stake. You can use soft ties, either Velcro, garden tape, or strips of old t-shirt if you really had to. You want to tie it just snug enough to support the stem, but loose enough that it won't cut into the plant as it grows. And you want to be careful with the clips as well, that it's not smashing the stem. Those clips are designed in a way that it should be, the large part of it supports the stem, and the pinch part is holding the stake or whatever it's grabbing onto. You don't want the stem getting smashed in the clip, so otherwise your plant won't live very long. Now I am gonna mention pruning, since we are starting to get these staked in real nicely. Pruning can make a lot of people nervous. I will say pruning is necessary if you want airflow and strong stems. You want to remove the bottom leaves. Anything that's touching the soil has got to go. Leaves that get splashed up with mud, like when it rains or something, are the first to develop blight or leaf spots. You also want to look for suckers They're little shoots that grow in the V spot between the main stem and a branch. If you don't pull those suckers out, they turn into full stems and they start to compete for nutrients. On indeterminate varieties, you can let 1 or 2 suckers grow if you want a multi-stem plant, but the rest come off, and we actually do. We have a few of them here that'll end up staying. They get as big as the regular main stem. Also, a little life hack there is you can take those suckers, let them grow pretty big, and you can actually grow a whole nother tomato plant out of those. Make sure you're using clean pruners. You can pinch them off with your fingers like I'm doing here. Clean tools are important because you don't want to spread disease from one plant to another, right? You can keep a little alcohol spray to sanitize in between them if you're really if you feel necessary. I've just been going down and pulling them right off, no problem. So the plants, you can mulch around the base if you want, but we are using this weed barrier fabric, so we're not going to do that. But you can, and it's okay. It's if you're not doing it with the barrier fabric, you can use whatever you have available. You can use shredded leaves, you can use straw, you can use goat bedding, you can use composted manure. The goal with the mulch is to conserve moisture. You're going to be regulating your soil temperatures. You're going to be preventing weeds, which you do see, sitting right there, clear as day, at the base above my stems. It is what it is. And you reduce your splashback from watering. Tomatoes don't like to dry out too quickly, especially in Florida's hot afternoons. So, mulch helps to maintain consistency. Erratic watering leads to split tomatoes and blossom and rot. There is compost. This whole area was composted directly underneath. That's why everything does so well over here. This whole area was composted, and then I flattened it down, smoothed it and evened it out before we put the barrier, the black fabric there, and started planting in it. So this stuff is sitting in composted leaves and horse manure effectively, and goat manure and chicken. It's whatever we picked up essentially. This used to be the compost spot. We actually moved it next to this garden now, behind where all the current gardening supplies is. So anyway, you can add the compost to the base of each plant. You can do just a couple handfuls, worked in gently, kind of like the same way you would do a fertilizer. That's what it is. Around the edges of the root zone, because that'll help add organic matter and nutrients without over fertilizing. It'll be a more natural feeding process. It won't be getting overnourished, if you will, because that you can do that. You can throw off your balances here. You can easily throw off your pH and things like that. We did that with some of our younger blueberries. I was working on the soil, and the acidity was actually measuring too low too quickly, because we had the crystal kind, the sulfur, and it unfortunately burned a couple of them. So just you learn as you go. So everybody's learning together. It's a community thing. So you want to prune like I'm doing here at the base, and you'll just get faster and better at it as you go. You're going to prune off the leaves at the bottom, anything touching the ground. Then you're going to move everything out of the way. You're going to grab the tomato cage. You're going to go over the top. You're going to hold it. You're going to pull it through. That's what you want to take each leaf, each stem, pull it over so it's supported. It's already got flowers on it. Now, some also will suggest to cut all of your stems up to the flower, which is not bad advice. That's solid advice. That way, you know, your energy is spent, well, the plant's energy is spent on the flowering at that point, if that's your goal, or, you know, whatever step you're in. If your goal is already to take advantage of those flowers, the flowering process, depending on your time of year, go ahead and start cutting up them stems, pruning the stems off below, all of them below the flowers, because it's not going to grow backwards. That's not how tomatoes work. So again, here's a smaller one, a younger one that was already stood up and it was supported with the bamboo stick. You can see the weeds down there sneaking through the holes as well. This is a constant process. I will be sweeping off this weed barrier fabric, because if you leave too much stuff on top of it for too long, like this leaves over here, it will break. It will start to break down and weaken. You know, it'll get wet and stay wet and break down your fabric. So you're going to pull it through again, just like that. It's going to support it. You know, the tomato feeding schedule, it's going to be simple. Every 2 to 3 weeks, duck pool water as a liquid feed. It's super high in nitrogen. You might hear me talking about the duck water in our other videos. It's loaded with beneficial bacteria. Compost tea, not sure if you've heard that term before, is brewed from finished goat bedding. The horse manure as well. Actually, I think it was my potato video. I had a big tote of compost. Yeah, it was horse manure and compost, and the liquid that's in it is called compost tea. Occasional side dressings of crushed eggshells for calcium. That's actually fantastic for tomatoes at the base, if you want to get them down to the base, but at the soil level, it's fantastic. We're not using synthetic fertilizers on these tomatoes. Instead, you want to make sure you focus on healthy soil, because healthy soil equals healthy plants. You want that to be the foundation of everything you grow. If you do start to notice any yellowing leaves or slow growth, it may be time to feed again. But always water first. Never fertilize dry soil, it can burn the roots. Tomato growing isn't set and forget, like I mentioned. You know, you got to come back often and check. Especially because of the way we have ours getting set up right now, where the pins are up and technically the top is at the bottom. I have it like that because I'm pulling it through. Is the cage still sturdy? Are the ties tight or cutting in? Are the lower leaves still clean? And did any of the lower leaves start to touch the ground? That's another big one. Are pests showing up? You know, you might be dealing with aphids, whiteflies, hornworms, you name it. The best defense is early detection. You know, we walk these beds, the garden beds, every single day. If not, we get to it the following day. We are human. You want to scan for any signs of change, right? So don't be afraid to retie a branch, reposition a cage, or even add a second stake. I actually had several of them prior to this, where 2 of these stakes you see over here were being used to support. So you can do multiple stakes if you need to. And really, your goal is to get these guys stood up and off the ground. So if you need to use multiple tomato cages for multiple tomato plants, you can kind of do, you know, you'll see here I'm getting low on the amount of them. Before I get more, what you can do is do like in between. You can start to put them in between the tomatoes and tie. You can use the sticks and tie them to each other. So you'll have one cage in this big concoction of tomatoes, and you'll start using stakes and you can tie them together so they're all standing up and supporting each other. It's really cool. It's not a bad idea. It's really not. These bamboo sticks are, if all you have is bamboo sticks, it can work. You just really have to stay on top of it. And they're not typically gonna be tall enough usually. But if you have this system here where you got the cages and the sticks together, they work out really well. So you're just gonna keep pulling them through. That's what I'm doing here, and I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna pull. I twist them off. The prune, the bigger ones I had to twist off, but you can usually just like kind of grip it, close your fist around it like you're holding a drink or something, and then like rake your hand down. You can do that on the younger ones, and it will just prune right off. All the little stems will just prune right off when you do it like that on younger tomatoes. Or 2 fingers, you can just rake your 2 fingers down the side, and it's usually a clean cut. We are risking more here when we're doing the, you know, pinch and twist method there effectively. So because you're leaving an exposed spot. Here's some of the tomatoes we pulled. You can see the blush on them. You want to wait. You know, you do not want to wait until they're completely red. You want to wait till they get some red and then start to pull them. So the blushing like that is ideal. You'll see we have lots of green ones over here. So this whole area, they have the cucumbers in there as well. These are, you can see the butterflies in our garden. Look at the butterflies on the marigolds. That's always a beautiful thing to soak in, is watching the butterflies. Sometimes you just got to stop what you're doing for a minute and just watch nature. You don't need to take this stuff too seriously. You're gardening. It's your getaway from everything else. The gardening, the aspect of just watching the ecosystem thrive, you know, the dragonflies, and there are bunnies outside of this area. I have only ever seen a wild bunny come in here once, and it ran away. But you can see, you know, things are doing okay as far as getting eaten. Look at that. This is what you're looking for. They're starting to blush. Some of them are a little more blushed, but the one on that front left there was a little more ideal. So you want to check every day. When you have tomatoes, green tomatoes on your plants, you want to start checking every day. You see our corn in the back there. It's starting to turn brown and die off. We already got probably 20 to 30 ears of corn off of those over there. It was pretty awesome. This cucumber I'm going to be dealing with, that's next to these tomatoes. They're dealing with the squash bugs. We call them stink bugs here. They're called squash bugs technically. When I was a kid, we always called them stink bugs too. But they are eating all over the cucumber plants. So I got some neem oil, and I use that. So you just want to stay on top of everything. The marigolds, if you do them closer, like right up against your cucumbers, it can help. Marigolds actually help keep away a lot of pests, which is pretty cool. We're staking up some more of the tomatoes closer because we're running out of cages at this point. So we're staking them closer to each other, and then we're going to use that method I mentioned where you can tie the adjacent tomatoes up, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to keep the stuff up off the ground, right? If you got to improvise, get it, whatever it takes to get it off the ground and stand up. You want that stem up. So we have the powdery mildew. We're going to be treating that with copper fungicide. It has been diluted enough, in the sense that as long as it's not 85 degrees or wet or fruiting, because we're not fruiting yet on the squash, so we'll be spraying that stuff down. 85 degrees is not asking much, or it's asking maybe too much in Florida right now. I mean, we're starting the day at 85, 90 degrees actually, if I look. Yeah, so you just want to be really mindful of your placement. Also, the placement of your tomatoes is key with these cages and the support systems as well. Especially when they get older like this and they start to fall over on each other. You see that big yellow cucumber down there? We're letting some of these cucumbers yellow on purpose because we're going to be harvesting the seeds. That's why we're doing that. They have to get to that point before the seeds are usable. You can't use the jellied seeds from a freshly harvested edible green cucumber. It has to go all the way down to the yellow. Basically, it's like their bolting process, more or less. It's not, but if I were to put it in those kind of terms, it has to get to a certain point before you can use the seeds. So I'm showing her the squash bugs that are up on the top there. They are not on they don't care about the tomatoes. I've only seen them on the cucumbers over here. And obviously I haven't seen them on the marigolds. I haven't seen them on the corn. It's this cucumber. They are absolutely obsessed with the cucumber. And unfortunately, there are hundreds of squash bugs on this cucumber. So you want to make sure you go through and you prune off any dead leaves. Those aren't coming back to life. If the leaves are dead, get rid of them, because it's sapping energy from your plant. So kill or cut off the dead stuff. It'll grow new leaves. It's not bad. It's okay. You typically don't have too much of an issue though when you're growing cucumbers, and if they're adult and they're thriving, the stink bugs don't usually end up killing the entire plant unless you get an absolute infestation. And I hate to say it, but I think we're starting to deal with an infestation on that particular cucumber. So that's something we need to take care of. So here you go. You're gonna stick it over, pull it through, pull it all the way up. You want to support every single stem and cut off those the bottom ones, the lower ones. Yep. Pull it off there. Pull it off the sides, pinch. There you go. See how clean it is at the base? I know it looks crazy because it's the stem grew off to the side there. Unfortunately for this plant, he's got a flower way down at the bottom. You can see it. So, I mean, we could technically cut that. You can cut whatever you want, honestly, at the end of the day. But we left it. These guys started from seeds, by the way. These tomato plants here, I mentioned the company earlier. All these tomatoes here started from seed. So, I'm telling you, man, they do well. There's some watermelon by my feet. That's actually very recent. It's flowering, but it hasn't, it's not fruiting yet. This guy's super tall. Very, very tall tomato. He's got gigantic stems at the base. I mean, he's got stems as big as the main stem coming off the sides here. So you want to pull those, pull them off, pinch, Big ones, a pinch and twist. If you just pull it off, you risk, hurting the main stem. Pinch and twist, you're going to support it, stand it up. You can, like I said, these things they're stronger than you think. I know I said they're weak. They're weaker than bark, obviously, but you can still be a little tough with them. Feed it through. Yes, these cages are upside down. It's okay. I'm gonna get a lot of critics for that, and that's all right. You're gonna tell me I didn't put them in the ground the correct way, and I'm gonna tell you that my tomatoes are standing up, aren't they? So, it doesn't matter. We're not perfectionists here. This guy's gonna stand up. He's gonna produce tomatoes. It's funny when you talk about fruit and plants and vegetation that needs to look pretty. You look. It's a real topic. Tomato fruit specifically. What happens to the ones that don't look perfect, like I was mentioning? You go to the grocery store, pick up a tomato, you'll notice something. They're almost always perfectly round, blemish free, same size, same color, right? That is not on accident, and that is not the reality of how gardening and fruiting and growing works. Commercial growers and grocery stores only select the prettiest fruit for retail. And when I say pretty, literally shiny, symmetrical, uniform, easy to stack in a box. It's not ideal, right? It's an irritating topic, honestly. If a tomato is too small, too big, if it has a crack in it, a scar, or even if it just has an odd shape, it doesn't make the cut. It won't go to the grocery store. So what do they do with it? Well, most of those ugly fruits either get processed for sauces, tossed out, or never harvested at all. So what that means is a lot of good edible food is getting left behind because it wasn't pretty. I mean, we're dealing with a lot of food waste nowadays, for the last hundreds of years. But here on the homestead, we're not going to be wasting any of these tomatoes just because they aren't Instagram worthy. We care about the flavor and the nutrition. We don't care. It's not the looks we're after. Some of the absolute best tomatoes I've ever eaten were hideous. Have you ever seen a purple calabash tomato by itself? We have those in pots up in the front. Some people say it's the prettiest tomato they've ever seen. Some people that look at a grocery store tomato will look at a purple calabash and go, that is not a tomato. Just as an example. Some of the tomatoes I'm talking about that I've eaten, though, as far as ugliness, they can be cat-faced, lumpy heirlooms with cracked tops, dark ridges. But the flavor, it's there. The flavor's where it should be. The flavor is on point. What do you think of, when you eat a tomato, what do you think of with the flavor? Cosmetically, it's not going to change that. So, store tomatoes are bred to survive shipping and shelf time. The ones we're doing here are bred by nature and the bees that pollinate them. The compost that feeds them, by the sun up top. That's why we had that hedge trimmed recently, because the sun, right around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, comes right over this garden. It peaks. It starts to peek over the head and say, "Hello, good morning, garden." And it's a beautiful thing. So direct sunlight, everything. This garden's in a great spot. And then it's actually got trees directly over it. The branches are directly over it. So you'll see that you get a nice trade-off. You know, they say 6 to 8 hours of sunlight, full day of sun, etc. But over here, that's a funny thing with Florida, because it'll tell you full sunlight, but that will burn your plants in Florida. So you can't go off of those packets. You get just a few hours of sun, it's fine in Florida. I feel like it just hits different. It really does. It's a few hours and then some shade, and it'll be fine. UV, you want that UV protection because it will damage your plants. It's just, and the reason we put the marigolds over there, we did that. We put the banana trees over there. We put the marigolds in the ground because you get those pollinators. We have the bees. You've seen them in our videos. We have the butterflies. You've seen those. You want to attract that stuff. So it's not, you can't typically just have harvesting vegetables. You need to get your pollinators in there as well. So you're going to need your pretty flowers and stuff for that. So if you ever grow a tomato that looks weird, you don't need to toss it. It's perfectly fine. If you're doing backyard farming, backyard gardening, you're going to see some pretty gnarly looking fruit sometimes, and it's okay. Some gnarly vegetables, it's okay. We've got cucumbers that are growing in the fence, for crying out loud. They're just, they're not straight. It's okay. It doesn't have to be. That's real food. That is real food. That's what food looks like. It's not what you see in the stores. So, it doesn't get sprayed. It wasn't waxed. So they wax a lot of that stuff too. Polish it. They polish a lot of it, especially their apples. And odds are, because you didn't do any of that stuff to it, it'll taste better than anything you could buy in the produce aisle. That's just gardening, backyard gardening 101. You're not covering it with anything. So I've been putting all of my bamboo stakes over here to consolidate. She's helping me with the clipping, so she's standing them up as we and attaching them, because there's only there's only 2 cages left over here. So I was looking at some of these younger ones in the corners. This back corner here didn't actually get any cages. And there's a ton of tomatoes right here as well. So I went ahead and put one here. Also, there's some beans over there and squash on the left. You can see the onion, which is pretty cool, on the right. It's on the other side of the fence. So here's the tomato. I'm going to use this one. And what we'll do is we'll support, since we only have a couple cages left, we're going to support these the other ones next to it off of this one. You can clip them to it, which is really cool. We'll just end up having to get more of these cages. So when you guys hopefully you guys stick around for the next video, because we'll be doing, we try to record everything, because everything helps somebody. At the end of the day, somebody's wondering, I don't know how many times I've researched, certain items, things that you don't think about, that you're like, gee, I wonder if there's a video for this, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, thank goodness somebody did a video for this, and you found it 6 years ago. That's just a blessing. Like, it's like, oh man, somebody, they found out how to change the blades on this old mower, and they put it on video for me. That's just the best thing ever. I mean, just as an example. the power of content creation is amazing, you know. And we're all a people, we're all a network. Homesteading is a community, so let's all help each other out. At the end of the day, this is, you know, we're all trying to help each other. Growing food, you know, there's absolutely no harm in helping your neighbor learn how to grow food. And your neighbor, by definition, is the person on the other side of the world. Doesn't have to be your physical neighbor, although it can be. It includes your physical neighbor. It's, you know, it's the person on the other side of the world. Help everybody out. You know, this is just, we're all here on the same planet. Let's learn how to grow. Let's learn how to be more self-sufficient. Let's learn how to compost. Let's learn how to do tomatoes right, squash right. Get that powdery mildew off the squash before it takes over and completely makes it useless. There, actually, you saw the way I poked down. Some of this is a little too shallow, but that's okay. It was live and learn. I think there was an old driveway over here before we moved here, but it wasn't quite deep enough. I mean, we got banana trees off in the corner. So the further back, the trail where we got our name, DiamondTrail Ranch, the trail is literally like right behind this fence to the left. You'll see it in a minute, but it crosses the street there, so it's just part of the trail and Diamond Trail. The baseball diamonds is where Diamond comes in, is on the other side of the trail, so Diamond Trail. So I'm clipping there. I'm having a little bit of an issue with that metal piece, and you just got to work with it. See what I was saying though? You want to put the stem on the thicker part of the clip, and then the thinner part, the end of it, you want on the stick itself. So I'm loving that the banana trees are really thriving, which is great considering the location. I was worried. So if you guys found this video helpful, I hope you stick around for the next one. And God bless, guys. Thank you.